So in this video, I'm going to talk you through workflows, how to set them up, how to edit them, and how to use them. So workflows are obvious when you look at a purchase order or an invoice list view. Each of the documents listed here, you can show the approval status, and it's either going to be green, approved, yellow, in progress, or could be red, rejected. And if we click any one of these statuses, we can see who took the action. So in this case, Nick rejected it. If we look at a pending one, like this one here, we're waiting on Nick to approve it. And if we're looking at a green one, which has been approved, we can see that department head approved it. We didn't ask the business unit head to approve. We didn't ask the finance director to approve. We sent a confirmation email to a buyer, and then we sent a purchase order onto a supplier. So invoice approvals are exactly the same. And the reason that the business unit head and the finance director weren't asked to approve is fundamental to Zahara's workflows. That's because each of these steps had a condition on it, and the condition wasn't met. Each condition resolves to true or false. So let's get into workflows. Let's have a look at where they are and how you work with them. So fundamental to your understanding of workflows is that you find them and edit them in the divisions or departments. The way that Zahara works is we have a business unit, in this case Rapid Systems, and that's made up of teams of people, what we call the divisions, and inside each of the divisions you will find the workflows. So the way that we think about workflows is that the marketing department might be asked to approve things differently to somebody who works in the IT department. Different people, different set of circumstances. So we put our workflows at division level. And to get to them, we click on Edit. Okay, so we click into the Workflow tab, and then we've got a list of the purchase order workflows and the invoice workflows. Now the one here that's got a star next to it, if I click on that, that's my go-to order approval with 5 steps. And those steps are listed down here. And in fact, this is the same workflow that we looked at a moment ago when we looked at the green approved workflow on the purchase order. So if you remember that, it was only a few minutes ago, the department head was asked to approve everything, but I showed you that the business unit head and the finance director weren't asked to approve. And that's because there were conditions on the step. So if I were to expand that out, the business unit head is only going to be asked to approve if the order, the net value, is more than £10,000. And the finance director is only going to be asked to approve if it's more than £25,000. So these are conditions, and they resolve to true or false. So if we had a purchase order and it was £38,000, the first step is there a condition? No, there's not. So this person will be asked to approve. Second step, is there a condition? Yes, there is. It's the net value is more than 10,000. That resolves to true because it's 38,000, and so on. And we can even have a step on sending a purchase order to a supplier. In this case, it's the buying category is not equal to Amazon. So that's how you see how a workflow works. You just click on each step and look at the conditions. And if we wanted to edit the workflow, we can do. We'll click here. But just want to reconfirm fundamentals of Zahara. Let's get this bit right. We will always start at the top, and we will always end up at the bottom. What will stop an approval workflow in its tracks is if somebody rejects it. So at some point in a workflow, you're more than likely going to have an approve step or approve reject step. And in my case, I've got 3 of them: department head, business unit head, finance director. So if we had a purchase request which triggers all 3 of those for approval, any one of them would stop that workflow in its tracks. So department head approved, but the business unit head rejected it, it would be rejected. It would stop at step 2. If, for example, all 3 are asked to approve, and we get down to step 3, finance director approves, it will go on and do steps 4. It will then attempt to do step 5, checking that the buying category is not equal to Amazon. And then if all of those steps are complete, it will show as completed, it will be green. So just understanding that fundamental, we're going to start at step 1, we're going to end up at step 2. So let's have a look at perhaps, the starting point will be editing an existing workflow. We just click on the edit icon. And we have a name for we have the division for our workflow that it belongs to. We have the name of the workflow, and we have the type. Is it a purchase order approval or an invoice approval? So you can override any of those. And you can actually have a condition on whether or not this workflow is going to run or not. So it could be in the case of an invoice workflow where, for example, an order exists or an order doesn't exist. in my particular workflow here, I don't need to edit this. I'm just going to go on to step 2. Now I can see my 5 steps clearly set out, and I have an opportunity. Again, I can expand these, or I can edit them. So if I wanted to edit the finance director step, I'm going to click on the edit icon, and then I get a fuller view. So first of all, let's have a look at the condition. So the net value is more than 25,000. Let's edit that. Let's say the net value is more than 15,000. And I'm going to put another condition in here now. So I'm going to choose an and. The supplier name is not equal to Taylor West. So you can see, you can build these conditions up. So the net value is more than 15,000 and the supplier name is not equal to Taylor West. So in this case, if the purchase request was for £16,000 and it was for a supplier called Taylor West, it would resolve to false because of that second condition there. So I can delete that one if I want to. I can change the name of the step. I could call it CFO to approve. It is step number 3. The approver, most important. Who am I going to ask to approve this? I'm going to ask Daniel Smith to approve it. And the from email address for this particular step is defaulted to orders@myzahara.net. I'll explain that later on. If it's rejected, who am I letting know? Well, please let know the originator of the order. Most importantly, send it to them. And the email subject, please approve this purchase request. And then for each of the approved steps, we can allow the user to edit. We can allow them to edit. We can require them to edit something. Or we can say no edits allowed. So if we were to allow them to edit something, we can then choose what can be edited. So these are the options. They can add a comment, they can change the nominal code, cost code, project code, or the description. If we said they were required to edit the nominal code, then they cannot just approve and reject. They would have to go in, review with details, and edit the nominal code as part of the approval. I'm going to change that to no edit allowed, and I'm going to update the step. So if we have a look at this step now, it's now called CFO to approve, and if we expand it down, I've changed the value to £15,000 and the approver has been changed to Daniel Smith. And if I wanted to change my supplier step, I would click on this and I've got buying category is not equal to Amazon. I'm going to delete that, and it now has no condition on it at all. Send to supplier, and the email subject for the supplier's email is purchase approval attached, or it could be another purchase order from Rapid Systems. And I can CC in whoever I want on this order as well, so I'm going to update the step. Okay, so that's a classic example of how you might want to edit a workflow. You can do that by coming into this and then editing any of the steps, and then remember to click update workflow when you're done. Now if we were to click back on that step, we've got the CFO to approve and send to supplier, send purchase order type to supplier has been edited with change the subject here. Let's have a little segue now into the emails that we send people as part of the approval workflows. If you go to business and settings and you come down to HTML templates, you will find all of the templates, all of the different emails that are sent from Zahara. So one of them is the supplier purchase order. So a second ago we edited the subject to another purchase order from Rapid Systems. And this is where we can change the wording. Dear vendor, please find attached purchase order, blah, blah, blah. So all of this can be edited. You can have buttons in here to get the supplier to accept. And the approval emails, we have one for purchase orders, one for invoices, and various other ones here. You know, what happens if somebody rejects a purchase order, then if we're emailing the buyer to let them know it's been rejected, we can give them lots of information here. So you've got a WYSIWYG editor, you can change the wording of things, and you can drop fields in. So business name, division name. Well, division name is actually one of what we call the placeholders. So if it's in the list here, it should work. You can drop it onto the email template. So if we go back here to the purchase order approval, not only have you got the kind of information like we need you to approve a document and the supplier is this, purchase order number is this, we've also got the line items as well. So this is worthy of further explanation, but effectively you need to marry the headlines up here, the headings, with the line items, and the line items has its own template. So if you come down to the bottom here and you look at the templates, purchase order document lines is basically quantity description, price, net tax, etc. And me being a purist, I like to edit these in the HTML view so I get them absolutely perfect. So a little segue into the customizations. So using the WYSIWYG editor, you should be able to get the wording of your approval emails absolutely bang on, exactly the way you want them. So let's go back to divisions and let's have a look at creating our own workflow. So let's create a new workflow for invoice approvals, and we'll do it from scratch. So new workflow, sales department, invoice approval. And what we will do here is we won't have a condition. I'm going to show you how we're going to use some conditions on each of the steps, and it is an invoice approval workflow type. Click on continue. So now this is the important bit. What do you want to do? So email approver is an approval step for an individual. Group email approval, that's when you can send it to a bunch of people. You choose the people it goes to, and one of them will have to take action. And then we've got some other steps here like check for a GRN, change a field value, adjust the budget, send an email, export the invoice into the finance system, which we will do, and we can check it into a document management system as well. So my very first step is going to be email an approver. So I'm going to add a condition. So on my first step, I want to email the buyer provided an order exists. So purchase order, condition, order exists, confirm condition. If a purchase order exists, buyer to approve. So if a purchase order exists, get the buyer to approve, and the approver is the originator. And in this case, the originator is the originator of the order itself. And please approve this invoice relating to your order. And I'm going to create that step. So there it is. So it's saying buyer to approve, only do this step if a purchase order exists. Now I'm going to add a second step, add another step, and it's email approver. And this time I want to engage the department head if it's more than £5,000. So add condition, the net value is more than or equal to 5,000. Confirm condition. And I want the head of division. So we've got some variables here. We've got the originator, we've got the head of division, business unit head, project manager. So I'm going to go with the head of division and invoice approval. And this time I'm actually going to put a variable in the subject. So I'm going to put the invoice approval, invoice number for, I'll put the supplier in there as well because I'm super nice. Supplier name. Okay. And again, I don't need them to edit anything. So create step. So I've now got my two steps. I've got buyer to approve, only if remember if the condition an order exists. Secondly, department head, if the net value is more than £5,000. And the third step, I'm going to get the finance user to edit the nominal code. So finance So no condition. I'm going to choose a particular person. I'm going to say it's Nigel James is the finance person I want to do that. And please edit this invoice. Again, I'm going to put some supplier in there. This will be useful if they're looking at email list at later dates. And I require them to edit the nominal code. Okay, so create step. So I've now got 3 steps. Buyer to approve if an order exists, department head to approve it's more than 5,000, and the finance exec to edit the nominal code every single time. And when that's all done, I'm going to put it in our finance system. So I'm going to export the invoice and we'll say export to 0 because that's what Zahara is connected to, say in this case. Then I'm going to create my workflow. So if we come down here, we have an invoice approval with 4 steps, and as it stands at the moment, that invoice approval workflow would need to be selected when you're creating an invoice, which I can show you how to do that next. So let's take a look at how workflows are triggered. And obviously in Zahara, there's 2 key document types. You can create a purchase order and you can create an invoice. So I've got 2 tabs open up here, and both of these are different document type. And this one here, the first one is purchase order. On the second or third screen of the purchase order, you will see the narrative screen. And this is where you can add comments and upload a document. And over on the left-hand side here, you've got the approval workflow. Now, if you have the admin permission, which I will show you in a moment, you can actually select a workflow. But for the majority of the users, this select box will be grayed out. You won't be able to change it. And therefore the default workflow is really important. So in my case, it's saying it's defaulted to approval workflow. I could have automatic, which I will explain to you, and I could have no workflow as well, or select any of the others. On the invoice screen, very, very similar. The workflow is down here under approval process. And again, the default one will show, and it's important to make sure that you've got the default right. The automatic is there, invoice automatic, which we are going to explain shortly. Typically though, for a finance user, you would allow them to select the workflow because you might want multiple invoice workflows. Okay, so let's take a look then at automatic. What automatic means, invoice automatic. So if we go back to business and divisions, and we go into our sales division and workflows. So we have here our different workflows, and at the top here we have the default. So we have, in the case I showed you a moment ago, we've got order approval. If I set that to automatic, what this means is out of all of the 3 approval workflows I have available here in this division, or in the case of invoices, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different invoices here. If it's set to automatic, it will choose the right workflow based on the conditions. And that means there needs to be a condition in the first place. So if we were to look at invoice approval order difference, it has a condition at the bottom here. So the start condition is if the invoice exceeds the purchase order by more than £10, or the invoice exceeds purchase order by more than 5%, then use this workflow. So for every workflow we have available under automatic, it needs to have a condition. So in this case here, purchase order does not exist. The previous one, it was the purchase order exists and there's a difference. And then that's when you can use automatic. If there's no conditions under here, start conditions, automatic can't be used. So getting your entry level conditions correct is really important. And we do actually have a little tool here you can use to test the automatic workflow selection. So for example here, if the net value is 5,000 for example, you could test out a purchase order entry condition, and it's telling you they've got 3 workflows available. Or if you click on invoice, it's showing you the invoice approvals that are available, and therefore you can test the conditions that we make available to you here to see if the correct workflow is going to be made available. The only other thing worth mentioning is that once you've got your perfect workflow, like order approval, you can copy that to another division if you want to. And in fact, one of the things that we recommend is that when you're working on your workflow, you use as many variables as possible. So in the case of this one here, where the approver is set as me, you can actually use variables like head of department, business unit manager, project manager. So therefore, when you do copy a workflow over to another division, you don't actually have to change very much at all, because the consistency of those variables works. Okay, so finally, the other thing to mention is the admin permission. So if we go to admin and then settings, which is user management, and we expand Rapid Systems down here and the sales division that I've been working on, to be able to select a workflow, the user needs the admin permission. It's just something that's required. So typically for your typical buyer wouldn't have the admin role. They wouldn't be able to select a workflow. They would have to use the default one that you've set for them. But I can't stress how important it is that the finance users, you probably do want to give them, anyone who's creating an invoice, you do want to give them the ability to select a workflow, because it could be that they want to override the default. So I think that is workflows. Next steps is we will have a look at how somebody actually approves. So you'll need your approvers to take action, and we offer multiple ways for them to approve or reject both purchase order and invoices. One of the easiest ways is actually the mobile app. The mobile app has what we call progressive disclosure. So the more they want to see, the more we'll reveal, including the full detail, the full narrative of everything that needs approval, like line items and the budget and things like that. Also, they can just swipe left or right and approve. The other way, which is very easy, is email. So you can control whether the approval goes off by email immediately or whether it's held back. And effectively the user can just click on the approve, reject, or they can review with detail and go directly into Sahara and see the narrative behind the approval. But with the settings switched on, they can just approve and reject by clicking the buttons inside the email. So minimum effort, maximum kind of productivity gain. And finally, there is a dashboard inside Sahara as well. So if they are in the habit of coming into Sahara on a regular basis to see what needs approving, then they'll find everything on their approval dashboard, and you can set up reminder emails to make sure that they come in on a regular basis. The other way, which I'll show you here, is that when you're in a list view like this, purchase order list view, you can click on the thumbs up icon here, which says show only awaiting my approval. Click on that. So this basically filters down similar to the dashboard, and then they can see the list of things that they need to take action on, and then if they click into this order, they can approve or reject. And similarly, by selecting it here, they can click actions, approve or reject. And if we've asked them to do more, like code the invoice or add comments, that will be there as well. So if we wanted to reject it, and these reject reasons are customizable, wrong approver, please ask Richard. Now there are a number of settings around workflows that you can use to customize the experience you want. If you go to business settings, click on workflows, one of the first ones worth looking at is disabling approval emails. That will basically stop emails going out straight away. Now that can work really, really well if you're doing invoice approvals and effectively your approvers don't want to get an email every single time that you create an invoice, but that can be turned on and off on an individual basis as well. Require login for approvals. That's quite nice if you are very conscious of security and you want to make sure that actually the user can't just forward emails on somebody else and just approve by clicking approve and reject in their emails. They have to actually log in. And then rejection comments, you can force rejection comments to be used, and you can choose which comments you want to use. But probably one of the most important features to switch on is your digest approval email. So by switching this on, you can choose how often the approval email goes out. So you could say it goes out every day, and you can choose the time that you want it to go out. So say I want it to go out at 9 o'clock in the morning. And then that's it. You save your changes. Now, the template for that is customizable again under HTML template, so you can choose how that looks, but effectively this is your weaponry to make sure that your approvers take action when you want them to take action. Ad hoc approvals are worth reading up on. that effectively allows you to select an approver from a drop-down list instead of using a rules-based workflow. And that is available for invoice approvals only and very, very flexible. And then we've got some things like, the reply to email address, the from email address is really important, and things like that. So all of this is explained in the help articles, but the workflow settings are fairly easy to navigate. But I would recommend that you enable your reminder email that we call the digest approval email, because that will really improve your efficiency in making sure that your approvers are taking action.